box 3. So they open it up. It's empty. They're not going to show you the box with the prize in it because, of course, then you would just pick a box with the prize in it. You'd be dumb. So they're going to open it up. It's going to be empty, and then you have one choice to make, which is, do you want to switch back to box number 1, or do you want to stay on box number 2? And it's up to you whether you want to do that. The question is, basically, is it advantageous to switch to number 1? Is it more advantageous to stay with number 2, or does it not matter which one you choose? So hopefully you guys are like more or less in your group. So I just want you to sort of discuss that for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then just write an answer. I assume at least one of you has a piece of paper, so write an answer on the piece of paper, and I'll come around and collect it.
I don't know who's in my group.
Oh, sure. Sorry, your name is Henry. So you are in group 4.
Yeah, I don't have the name tags.
Yeah, I have them in my office right now. Some of them need to change. Which is group number 4? Can group 4 raise your hands? There you go. Yeah, so the question is, do you want to switch to box 1, do you want to stay on box 2, or are you basically indifferent between which one you do? You have 2 group 2s? Let me get the list here. So group 2, there was a group 2 that was crossed out.
Yeah.
But then
I guess we just started over in this
right.
list. I don't know why. Yeah, just forget about this list.
Okay.
But,
so yeah, I mean, I was ignoring this,
yeah.
but is the list otherwise accurate?
Well, I don't know everyone's names, but it looks like there's like 9 people, right? And then apparently, I thought we were group 2, and they said we were group 2 as well. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay, well, that's fine. So just sort of work as a group. On Wednesday, I'm gonna. So the name tag. Some people didn't write their names or their group numbers on the name tag, which is why I don't have them all here today. But I'm gonna go in and manually fill in the numbers we really didn't. So we'll sort it all out on Wednesday at the beginning of class.
Okay. So do we all turn in all one piece of paper?
Yeah, just write your group number on it, and to the extent that if they're 2 group 2s, then well, it's okay. I'll just stop.
All right. So we
worry about it.
every person doesn't submit one piece, right?
No, the group submits one piece. I mean, like I'll just come around in 2 minutes or something, and then pick one piece each. No, just one per group. So just one piece of paper per group. Yep. You saw what? You saw what in the movie? Okay, well, write down whatever you think the answer is for your group. Okay, I'm gonna pick up your answers in like 1 minute. You guys ready? Okay. Did you guys decide? Yeah. Thank you. Are you guys ready? Oh, you already did. Okay. Are you guys done?
No, we're not agreeing.
No, you can just write the answer. It's fine. Yeah. The group number is always helpful. Okay, I think you guys are the last group, so you have to choose an answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's fine. That's all I want. Okay. So I think that most people got it. I'll have to check at the end to see for everybody. But so the answer is that you should switch, and which sort of seems counterintuitive because it's like, well, isn't it just kind of random? But I think that there's probably multiple ways to think about it. But the easiest way to think about it is that at the beginning, there's obviously a 1/3 chance that any one of those boxes contains the prize. In particular, there's a 1/3 chance that box number 2, which you picked, contains the prize. But that implies there's a 2/3 chance that either 1 or 3 contains the prize. So you think, okay, well, if I switch to 1 or 3, then there's a 2/3 chance it's in one of those two. But then conditional on choosing one of those two, there's going to be only a 50-50 chance, or 50% of the probability, say, it's going to be split between those two boxes, right? So it'd be like 1/2 times 2/3 there would be 1/3, and 1/2 times 2/3 there would be 1/3. So again, you have the result, which you would intuitively expect, but there's still a 1/3 probability of it being in each box. So there's no point in switching before you know that 3 has been eliminated, right? But things change as soon as you know that 3 has been eliminated. So you can think, well, there was a 2/3 chance of it being one of those other two. The problem is I didn't know which one. So given that I could only pick one of the two if I were to switch, I didn't have an incentive to switch. But now that he's come and basically eliminated the possibility that's in 3, all of the 2/3 probability moves on to box number 1. And so now you actually want to switch to box number 1 rather than just holding steady on box number 2. Okay, so that was just a little statistics puzzle, and we will eventually be talking about probabilities and so forth when we talk about econometrics, but we're not there yet. Okay, so the last thing then, just the last 10 minutes here, I'm just going to give a bunch of concrete examples of externalities that I think so. These are types of things that you would be aware of because you would call them annoyances, but you might not think of them in terms of externalities. But if you're an economist, then you always think of it in terms of like, well, somebody's imposing this externality on me. I should say my former commute was essentially a crash course in externalities. So I live in San Francisco. I used to have to commute on Uni to get to BART and then take BART in. But then recently we moved to be closer to BART, so now I just walk to BART. And so the number of externalities has sort of dropped dramatically now that there's no longer a Uni segment involved. But when there was, essentially, there were all sorts of externalities that Uni would encounter, which BART manages to avoid just because of the way it's constructed. So the first is just sort of obviously, traffic congestion is an externality. So the Muni train would be delayed by traffic because there's tons of people on the road, right? Or the Muni bus, depending on which line you're on. And so the externality here is, of course, the drivers are not taking into account the congestion that they impose on others. And the way that you would think about trying to essentially fix that externality would be either congestion pricing, so you charge people money to take up road space because they're imposing a cost on other people, they're using a scarce resource, and usually we think that we should not set a zero price for a scarce resource. So that's congestion pricing, or sort of an alternative that they follow, which also more or less solves the problem, is like a transit lane or something. You're saying like, look, you can't drive in this lane, we need to keep it uncongested. So that's sort of a first externality that one would encounter. But then there's sort of lots of smaller things which add up to be just as annoying as the traffic. So another thing is that the train or the bus can get delayed by passengers fumbling for change, particularly like tourists who don't have passes or anything like that. So in that case, the passengers are basically not accounting for the delay that they impose on everyone else by paying by cash as opposed to just having a pass or something, or like a token. And even though for any individual person who's paying, there's not a very long delay, the delay could basically add up, right? So maybe it takes them 10 seconds to fumble around for the change. Honestly, sometimes it takes longer than that. But if there's 200 people on the train or like 80 people on the bus or something, and those people value their time at $20 an hour, then all of that multiplies out to be like $11 or so. And the ironic thing, or the sad thing about that, is that basically the delay that they're imposing, the total amount of delay they're imposing, the cost of that delay is actually greater than the amount of revenue that is being collected from them, right? So they're only paying like $2, and yet just the act of paying that $2 in this particular case might impose like $11 worth of cost. So the way to fix that would be essentially to make people use like passes or tokens where they don't have to sit there and try to count out their change and so forth, or move to what they call proof of payment system, where you just pay for the train or the bus beforehand, and then they have fare inspectors who come around and randomly check whether or not you have whether or not you paid. And actually, Muni has for some lines changed to that. So remember to pay your fare unless you want to get caught by the inspectors. Then another externality, especially in San Francisco, is like somebody who hasn't showered in 10 days gets on. So the externality is, of course, they sort of smell like some combination of rotting cheese and other things, and that imposes a negative externality on everybody else. The fix for that is not so clear. Ideally, you'd like to require people to shower before getting on the train, but I think sort of like civil rights advocates and so forth would have a problem with that. Then somebody with a wheelchair gets on, so that actually takes a really long time for the buses. So so this is going to sound really terrible, but so the disabled individual does not count for the delay that he imposes on everyone else. So the bus, especially the bus, has like this wheelchair ramp that comes down and they drive the wheelchair on, and then it like lifts up and then it pulls back up. That whole thing takes like 2 or 3 minutes, though, that entire process. It really, really slows things down. It actually got to sort of a level of absurdity. Shortly before I moved, it was like sort of towards the end of having taken Uni, there was a case where there was this woman in like one of those power chairs who was on the bus, and she had to get off, I think, at like Van Ness, and she tried to maneuver her chair over there, but it didn't really she couldn't quite fit it. So she actually got up out of the chair, lifted up the chair, like carried it onto the ramp, then had the ramp lower her down and like carried the chair off the ramp, which suggested that not only she could, not only could she move herself, but she could actually carry her chair as well. That perhaps she didn't actually need to be using it. But at any rate. So this can really add up. So you might have like a 3-minute delay, and then there's 50 people on the bus, and they're valuing their time at like $20 per hour. So then the marginal cost of that could work out to be like $50. And there's 2 ways to fix that. So University of Chicago, they're sort of well-known, very like free market oriented kinds of guys. So they would just say, look, these people need to pay the full cost. They're imposing on other people. Let's charge disabled people a very high fare. They can pay $50 or something. But of course, at UC Berkeley, we're a little bit like more empathetic and liberal and so forth. And so we would say, well, let's not just like kick these guys out of the curb, but instead we'll sort of subsidize a separate paratransit service with vans or whatever that sort of picks them up separately and is independent of the main bus. And then you come to like intersection with a stoplight, and actually even just traffic lights are basically sort of a case of potential externalities that as society or as traffic plan or something we're trying to sort of sort out. So the externality here is that if we have the green, then we're going to impose a cost on the cross traffic because they have a red, so they can't go. And then if the cross traffic has a green, then they impose a cost on us in the sense that we can't go. And sort of the key difference here, so if you just had 2 cars coming, then you'd kind of be indifferent as to which one we're allowed to go because one has to go and one has to stop. They can't both go, and it's not clear that one choice, like choosing car A versus choosing car B, is any better. But the key difference here is that if it's during commute hour and you have a train full of people, then if the train has to stop for say 20 seconds at the light and there's 200 people and they're valuing their time $20 an hour, then that's a cost of like $22, turns out. Whereas maybe if you just had like 10 cars lined up in the opposite direction, but each car only has 1 person in it, the car has to stop for 20 seconds, people value their time at $20 an hour. There's basically many less people involved there. So the cost of delaying those people might be only $1 per hour. So you could also think of it just purely in sort of a traffic throughput, or not a traffic throughput problem, but really a people throughput problem. Is like, okay, how can we move the most people? There's going to be interferences. How can we move the most people through the intersection fastest? And it's going to be, well, let's move all 200 people through the intersection rather than moving these 10 people through the intersection. So the fix here would essentially be what they call like priority signaling, which is going to achieve the efficient allocation. So the efficient allocation would be that essentially, let's say that these guys, the cars, have the green and the train has the red. So in theory, there's a Pareto improvement that's possible here, right? In the sense that the 200 people here on the train could collect money among them, and then they could give that money to the car drivers. The car drivers would only need $1.11 of total payment in order to accept sort of a red light and wait. And the train drivers would be willing to raise up to $22 in order to go immediately. So if you want to think of it, bring it back to this idea of Pareto efficiency, the Pareto improvement that's possible here is that the train drivers would essentially pay the car drivers some value that's greater than $1.11, but less than $22.22, and both groups of people would end up better off. Nobody would end up worse off. Now, in practice, of course, facilitating that transaction would take more time than actually just like having everybody wait for the light and wait their turn. But the way that you could achieve that allocation is through what they call priority signaling, where essentially the train would trigger a sensor that makes the light go green for 10 seconds and it goes, and then the cars can go again. Ironically, in San Francisco, that doesn't happen, even though they're like supposed to be very liberal and transit first and so forth. There is no priority signaling, but in places like Houston, where my wife is from, and is like very car centric, they also do have a small light rail system. They actually give it priority signaling so that it can go ahead of the car. So I don't know. You would think that maybe this would sort of be correlated with like some kind of like liberal conservative thing, and that the liberals would be like, yeah, we favor public transit, but in practice, it's not at all clear that happens. Okay, so basically on Wednesday, we're going to start talking about the Coase theorem and maybe talking about public goods as well.